Before streetwear became a billion-dollar machine and rappers were partnering with European designers for runways and perfumes, there was a time when we had to build our own lanes, a time when what you wore wasn't about clout or going viral. It was about identity, about pride, about letting the world know exactly where you stood and what you represented and what you were hustling for. In part 2 of this series, we're diving deeper into the iconic brands that shaped the streets and the culture in the mid to late 90s. Some were polished, some were raw, some were loud, and some spoke with quiet power, but they all moved in the same way, by us, for us, with no apologies and no handouts. This ain't just a history lesson, it's a time machine, a reminder of what it felt like to step outside in a fresh fit and know you were walking art. So dust off your old box of Polaroids, crank up that classic mixtape, and let's jump back into the era where your outfit spoke louder than your words. Let's celebrate the brands that made us kings and queens of our blocks long before anybody else even noticed we were building empires. Now let's rock, yo. When the late 90s hit, hip-hop wasn't just knocking on the door anymore. It had bought the building, and Rockawear was the custom logo on the front of it. Founded in 1999 by Sean Jay-Z Carter and Damon Dash, Rockawear wasn't just a brand, it was an announcement.
So I was like, maybe I could just start my own thing, start my own clothing line, make it the right fit, just baggy enough for everybody and the right style, and once that idea started,
it told the world that hip-hop wasn't just influencing fashion, it was leading it. Rockawear came in heavy with oversized denim, crisp jackets, and bold branding that didn't just whisper success, it screamed it across the club, the block, and the boardroom. The clothes felt accessible but aspirational, giving everybody a piece of that.
It's my own label, right? This is my own brand right here, Rockawear. Be in your store soon.
Rockefeller Dynasty energy. When you wore Rockawear, you weren't just getting fresh, you were putting yourself in the mindset of ownership, empire building, and staying fly while doing it. Rockawear made it cool to dream big, get money, and look good while doing it, all without asking for a seat at the table. They built their own. And once Rockawear established that blueprint of streetwear meets boardroom excellence, the doors were wide open for the next wave. If Rockawear was the anthem for hustlers turning into moguls, the next brand was about bringing clean sophistication to the streets without losing a single ounce of that Brooklyn to Harlem grit. Let's talk about Phat Farm. When Russell Simmons launched Phat Farm in 1992, he wasn't just dropping another clothing line, he was rewriting the rules. At a time when the urban fashion was still trying to find its place between street credibility and mainstream acceptance, Phat Farm slid in with the perfect balance.
Hi, here we are at Phat Farm. Phat Farm is a company based on the same energy as our music company, and as our film, as our TV company, all from the same culture, young urban culture. And it's about young American.
The brand brought Ivy League polish to the concrete jungle, blending clean-cut preppy styles with unmistakable hip-hop attitude. Crisp polos, premium denim, varsity jackets. Phat Farm gave you the tools to look like you ran the streets and the boardroom at the same time. It wasn't just about being fly for the block, it was about stepping your whole lifestyle up. Russell saw the bigger picture early. Hip-hop wasn't a phase, it was the future, and it deserved a wardrobe that would go toe-to-toe with the world. Phat Farm made it possible for a kid from Queens or Brooklyn to dress like a CEO while still keeping both feet planted firmly in the culture that raised him.
And now Def Jam czar Russell Simmons has opened Phat Farm, an upscale urban wear outlet in New York City.
And once the streets realized that clean could still mean tough and polished didn't mean selling out, the next wave of urban sophistication was ready to roll through. If Phat Farm dressed you for the business meeting, Enyce was what you threw on right after. Something sleek, stylish, and built to move with the rhythm of the streets. So let's get into Enyce. When Enyce dropped onto the scene in 1996, it felt like a breath of fresh air, but one that smelled like new sneakers and hustle.
Our new line is Enyce, which is the phonetic spelling of New York City, NYC, which is, if you look at it, it's ENYCE, NYC. It's more of a upscale young men's contemporary sportswear line.
Founded by Tony Shellman, Evan Davis, and Lando Felix, Enyce carved out a space where streetwear met high design without losing its swagger. This wasn't your typical oversized tee and saggy denim situation. Enyce played with technical fabrics, clean construction, and bold but tasteful stitching that made you look sharp without screaming for attention. It was fly in a way that felt grown, smart, and street-approved all at once. You could rock an Enyce fit to the cypher or a semi-formal dinner and still have everybody nodding in respect. Coming after the groundwork laid by Phat Farm, Enyce was the next logical step, showing the world that urban fashion could be elevated without getting watered down. It wasn't about pretending to be something you weren't, it was about showing the streets that we had always been more sophisticated than they gave us credit for. Real talk. And while Enyce was dressing up the game with new fabrics and cleaner silhouettes, the heart of the culture was still pumping to a different beat. One rooted in ownership, pride, and a message stitched right into the gear. After all, what's streetwear without a little bit of revolution? Let's move into the brand that spelled it out loud and clear. Fubu. When Fubu burst onto the scene in the early 90s, it wasn't just another brand trying to ride the hip-hop wave. It was the wave. Founded in 1992 by Damon John, J. Alexander Martin, Keith Perrin, and Carl Brown, Fubu stood for something bigger than fashion. It was for us, by us.
What's the Fubu stand for?
For us, by us, man. For us, by us.
For us, by us, right?
That's right. They didn't get it all mixed up. It's
Yeah.
for you, by
you, yeah.
For us, by us.
And those 4 words hit harder than any marketing slogan ever could. Fubu gave the culture its own uniform, stitched with pride, ownership, and a sense of finally controlling our own narrative. You weren't just wearing a jersey or a bubble vest, you were making a statement. You were saying that you knew where you came from and you weren't about to let anybody define it for you. LL Cool J's legendary support, from slipping a Fubu shout-out into a Gap commercial to rocking the pieces like Street Armor, only made the brand's rise feel more organic.
And big ballin', not stopping, yes, yallin'. Jeans popping in every mall in town, the city. GAP, gritty, ready to go. For us, by us, on the low. G, that's for getting the A for always. P, that's for power and the people that praise.
By the late 90s, Fubu was everywhere. Mall racks, music videos, Nike sidelines. I mean, it was bigger than fashion. It was cultural self-respect, stitched into denim and poly blend.
How the orders now?
Yeah. Dollar terms.
Dollar terms?
In excess of $1 million?
In excess of $1 million? No, the orders now, I could say, I guess with all my licensees, by the end of this year, I'll probably do 200 million.
And just as Fubu made it clear that the culture could own its image and get paid off its own creativity, the streets still needed gear that reflected the day-to-day grind, that rugged, ready for anything energy you couldn't fake. After planting the flag with Fubu's proud ownership, it was time to launch back into the grittier side of the city hustle. Next stop, the rough and ready attitude of Mecca USA. If Fubu was the pride, Mecca USA was the grit. Launched in 1994, Mecca USA came through the scene with rugged energy that matched the heartbeat of the streets. This wasn't fashion for the boardroom. This was fashion for the cypher, the court, and the corner, where the real deals went down. Mecca's designs hit differently because they weren't just trying to clean up the culture for everybody's approval. Heavy logo work, bold colors, tactical cuts, everything about Mecca felt like it was built for movement, survival, and standing out without asking permission. You could throw on a Mecca hoodie and baggy jeans and step anywhere. A freestyle battle, a late night ride, a block party, I mean, it really didn't matter. The brand belonged to the streets because it came from the same places the music, the slang, and the hustle came from. Mecca wasn't trying to chase high fashion. It was built for the concrete jungle, and everybody who came up in it recognized that immediately. But even inside the toughness, even inside the cold winters and colder corners, loyalty still stood taller than anything. And the next brand on the list wasn't just about gear. It was about brotherhood, legacy, and putting your crew on your back. After laying down the rugged foundation with Mecca, it's only right we move into the mighty spirit of Wu-wear. Wu-Tang, Wu-Tang. Let's go. When the Wu-Tang Clan stamped their W on a piece of clothing, it wasn't just branding, it was a declaration of war against the mainstream fashion world that never saw them coming.
The flavors for y'all to come through, you know what I mean? None but official, you know what I'm saying? You get the flag, you get the hat, you know what I mean? Check out the hats right there, spinning around. what I'm saying? You got flavors right there, you know what I mean?
Launched officially in 1995 by Oliver Power Grant, Woowear was one of the first serious moves by a rap group to build their own clothing empire from the ground up. And it wasn't about chasing runway approval or department store aesthetics. Woowear was rugged, raw, and carried the same code of loyalty, brotherhood, and survival that the Klan preached in their music. Baggy jeans, oversized hoodies, and bold logos made you feel like you were a part of the army, a foot soldier for Shaolin's cause. Rockin' Woowear wasn't just about style, it was about allegiance. You weren't just a fan, you were family. And seeing Woowear open real brick-and-mortar stores in New York, LA, and even Tokyo wasn't just a flex, it was proof that hip-hop culture could own its fashion future without begging for a seat at anybody's table. After stepping deep into the trenches with Woowear's battle-ready loyalty, it was only right to elevate the armor. The winters got colder. The stakes got higher, and your jacket had to carry the weight, literally and figuratively. Up next, we enter the heavyweight class with Pelle Pelle and Avarex, two brands that turned outerwear into full-blown championship belts. When the temperatures dropped and the streets iced over, that's when the real champions emerged, and they came wrapped in thick, gleaming leather from Pelle Pelle and Avarex. These weren't just jackets, these were armor. Trophies you wore on your back to show the world you could survive the grind and look good while doing it. Pelle Pelle, founded by Mark Buchanan in 1978, started as custom biker leather, but was adopted by the streets like it was made for them. Wild colors, bold embroidery, heavyweight construction. Pelle Pelle jackets weren't subtle, and that was the point. When you threw one on, you weren't trying to blend in. You were demanding respect before you even opened your mouth. Every stitch, every rhinestone, every logo shouted status and self-made pride. And right alongside Pelle Pelle stood Avarex, the brand that gave street soldiers their flight gear. Originally built for real fighter pilots, Avarex bombers and flight jackets became a staple for anyone who wanted to move like a general through the city trenches. Big patches, heavy sheepskin collars, American flags stitched proudly on the sleeves. Avarex didn't just keep you warm, they made sure everybody knew you carried weight. Where Pelle Pelle was colorful and flamboyant, Avarex was the battle-hardened general, both equally respected, both impossible to miss when you stepped on the scene. Together, they defined what it meant to survive the winter in style. Heavy jackets, heavy presence, heavy respect. Before designer denim became a full-blown craze and before skinny jeans ever touched a rapper's closet, the streets had already crowned a king. Girbaud. Born out of France in the late 60s, but fully adopted by the American inner city by the early 90s, Girbaud jeans became the staple for anybody trying to stunt properly. They weren't just baggy jeans, they were engineered masterpieces. Thick seams, bold paneling, and futuristic stitching. It felt like wearing a blueprint for how denim should be done. And the fit? Baggy enough to smuggle a small boombox if you needed to. Girbauds weren't about blending in. They were about moving different, about signaling you had taste, style, and a little extra cash to burn. They weren't cheap, and that made them even sweeter. A fresh pair of Girbauds, some crispy sneakers, and a clean white tee, that was a fit that needed no caption, no explanation. It was understood you was outside for real, especially in the dirty South. But as much as Girbaud defined the streets with rugged, baggy brilliance, there was always room for a little flex, a little flavor, a little luxury so loud it couldn't be ignored. So after setting the foundation in heavy denim, it's only right that we step into the loud, colorful, unapologetic luxury world that only Coogi could provide. When it came to the luxury flex in the 90s, no brand did it louder or prouder than Coogi. Originally founded in Australia in 1969, Coogi's wild, vibrant knits didn't catch fire in the streets until hip-hop royalty grabbed them and never let them go. Those sweaters weren't just clothing, they were moving, wearable murals, exploding with color and texture. Every thread seemed to shout, "I made it." Coogi wasn't about the subtle wealth, it was about being seen, about standing in the middle of a crowded room and daring everybody else to catch up. The Notorious B.I.G. made Coogi legendary, with just a few bars and a closet full of statement pieces, cementing it as the go-to brand for rappers, hustlers, and fly guys who wanted the whole block to know their money was good.
brother, your boy had to get right with the Coogis, you know what I'm saying?
All the time.
Make sure the rolling and everything is in the full effect, the brim, the Versace's, you know what I'm saying?
It's all good.
Just got to make it happen. You know
You can't forget the pinky ring.
All right.
Okay, then.
All right.
You didn't throw a Coogi on to stay low-key. You wore Coogi when you had earned the right to shine and you wanted the whole world to bear witness. And even today, if you come across a vintage Coogi sweater in the wild, best believe you're looking at a piece of living history. Sean John. When Sean Puff Daddy Combs launched Sean John in 1998, it wasn't just about creating another clothing line, he was designing a whole new blueprint for what success looked like coming out of the streets. Sean John wasn't about survival anymore, it was about domination.
We're a designer jean company first and foremost, and we just grow and grow and grow, go to next levels and heights you wouldn't expect us to go to. We kind of give you the unexpected. We're not a hip-hop line because I'm a hip-hop artist. This is not a celebrity line that I just attach my name to. I designed the line, and also I studied and I know the business.
The brand took everything that made the streets powerful, the hustle, the pride, the resilience, and dressed it up in fine fabrics, velvet tracksuits, fly button-ups, and leather bombers that moved like armor but shined like money. Sean John wasn't just flashy for the sake of it, it was calculated, it was grown. It showed the same kid who once rocked baggy jeans and bubble coats could walk into a corporate meeting, close $1 million deal, and still keep that same Harlem bop in his step. Puffy wasn't asking for a seat at the table. He brought the table, the chairs, and the building. At a time when fashion often looked at hip-hop like an outsider, Sean John forced the industry to recognize the culture's brilliance, not just in the music game, but in the tailoring game too. The swagger and presence was undeniable. With Sean John, you didn't just wear success, you lived it. You manifested it in every stitch. Every clean-cut blazer, every heavyweight tracksuit was a reminder that being from the streets didn't limit your future. It just made your story legendary. And that's the energy we need to keep alive, because these brands weren't just about fabrics and logos. They were the armor for a generation that refused to be ignored. And we didn't just wear clothes back in the day. We wore our stories, our struggles, our ambitions. Every brand we talked about today was more than just a label stitched on a sleeve. It was a badge of honor, the signal to the world of where we came from and where we were going. Rockawear showed us that hustlers could become moguls. Phat Farm gave us permission to clean it up without selling out. Enyce made it stylish to move smart. Fubu reminded us that pride and ownership were our birthrights. Mecca USA, Pelle Pelle, Avarex, Girbaud, they dressed us for battle, for winters, for block parties, and for building empires. Coogi and Moschino taught us to flex big, to shine without shame, and Sean John closed the circle, turning street dreams into polished, undeniable success stories. So next time you see a vintage Woo-wear hoodie, a Pelle Pelle jacket, or a Girbaud tag hanging off some old jeans at a thrift shop, don't just see clothes, see the history, see the hunger, see the blueprint that built everything you're standing on today. The culture always had style. The world just had to catch up. If you felt this trip down memory lane, and if you wore these brands with pride or watched your big cousins flex them like trophies, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment and tell us which brand you rocked the hardest, or which one you always wanted but never got your hands on. We keeping the culture alive over here, one story at a time. So stick around, because we're just getting started. Salute to everybody who knows the real history, and even bigger salute to those still carrying it forward. See you in the next one. And until then, stay jiggy, my people. We out.